My emotions are all messed up horribly right now. I am all to blame for this mess I have put myself in. Roughly 9 years ago, I was on a deployment and met a guy who I became friends with. It was strictly friends. Over the years, we still remained friends, but my heart got tied up in it, and for me became more of an emotional affair. My husband was working a lot, providing for us and our kids. He is a damn good provider, but I kept him from home a lot, probably more than I ever liked. Deep inside, I kept the secret that my heart was not fully my husband's, that there was this friend who had part of it for so many years. About 3 years ago, husband confronted me about the friendship, and it was obvious that the emotional affair was only one-sided. The other guy barely ever responds, and I was the one initiating the conversations, probably out of boredom and loneliness. I cut all contact off for 2 years preceding husband finding out about my feelings. I wanted to make our marriage work, but I still could not shake the feelings I had for the other guy. Other guy does not live in same state as us, never has. Military has kept him all over the US, but never in the same state. Last year, I got a message from him after not hearing from him for over 2 years. He had been going through a hard time, and I made a mistake by talking to him via internet and consoling him over his relationship loss. I again made another mistake, sent said guy a birthday card with no return address. Just wanted to make sure he knew he was thought about cause he was going through so much. Probably the worst thing for me to do, cause he sent me a message on FB and husband saw it and flipped out. Well, now after months of contemplating divorce, husband filed last week. I am forever regretful cause I ruined a decent marriage. We had our differences, but husband is not a bad man by any means. If anything, he is the most understanding, kind man I have ever known. I'm an emotional wreck and can't seem to keep it together. Our kids don't really know what is going on just yet, and I hope we don't have to tell them cause we are trying to keep things normal for them. As of right now, I'm keeping this house, and the kids will live with me full time, with him getting them from school in the afternoons and every other weekend. He works nights, so he really can't swing the full-time thing. I want him to see them as often as he wants. The plus to part of my woes is we have a rental house next door, so after our renter's lease is up in March, he will move over there, but in the meantime will remain under the same roof even after the legal divorce. To make matters even more stressful, I'm in nursing school right now. 5 days a week I'm in class. It's a hard program and fast-paced. I almost feel like quitting to get a job cause I don't know how I am going to manage. Husband keeps saying things will be fine. He is making sure we are both financially set up and won't fail. We have very little debt and already agreed what we do have will pay off at tax time. I have not worked in 7 years, so we'll need to get a job ASAP once I get done with school, so I can carry my own insurance. Today I got a letter from his attorney, and it was explaining how once the divorce is final my health benefits are done, and I have to either do COBRA or get my own. I panicked, cause I don't have a job yet, and he keeps telling me I don't need to get one. I panicked, cause I don't have a job yet, and he keeps telling me I don't need to get one. He and I are good friends still, husband and I. We actually sat out by a campfire and talked like good old friends. He keeps reminding me that we are just too different for each other. That he wants us both to be happy. I tend to be very needy in regards to physical touch and affection, and he does not need it. Over the past few years, I have felt we are no more than roommates, sleeping in different rooms. He says it's only cause of his work hours. I realize I'm all to blame. If my heart had been 100% his all these years, and I had just been happy with the time we do get together, we would be fine. I'm a miserable mess, and trying really hard to stay positive, especially cause he is all calm and not really making a huge deal out of it. But I feel 100% guilty for all of this. Our kids deserve to have both of us in their lives full time, and I ruined our marriage. I ruined myself, and my husband. Now all I have to look forward to is a divorce probably in the next 90 days, and the stress of finishing nursing school, then moving on with my life. I realize I will get some bashing for being the wrong one in this. But I'm a wreck, and admit my wrongs for the emotional affair. How do I get through this and not lose myself? Was told that this would be the subreddit that may be the most helpful. My wife, 41, and I, 39, have been married for 12 years. We have 2 amazing kids. I love my wife very much. She's been my best friend since I was 15 years old. I remember in the weeks before our wedding, she was spending more time out with her coworkers than usual. She was not acting like herself, something felt off. I started to feel paranoid. I felt so much shame for even thinking that maybe my wife-to-be was not being faithful just weeks out from our wedding. I remember asking her if there was something going on with her and one of her coworkers. She said there was not. They were just friends. I believed her and didn't really dwell on it. 4 years ago, 8 years and 2 kids into our marriage, in a therapy session together, she shares that she did have a physical relationship, on 2 occasions, with her coworker in those few weeks before we got married. I was devastated, blindsided. My heart was broken. There's part of me that really felt like I needed to know the details. So I asked for the details. She said they didn't have sex. It was all making out, over the clothes, under the shirt kind of stuff. It was hard to hear. But a part of me has never fully been satisfied with the details of the story that I got. I hate that. I feel so much shame for still feeling that there is more to the story. At the time of this infidelity, in the weeks before the wedding, she confided in her parents and sister about what happened. I am not sure exactly what everyone's response was, but I know her father's advice was to not tell me. So she didn't, and the wedding went off as planned. Not only did my wife wait 8 years to tell me about the infidelity, the rest of her family have all held this secret from me, a family that I was very close to. Sunday dinners, vacations, family parties and gatherings, they have known me since I was 15 years old. The thought of people sitting at my wedding, listening to me make my vows, watching me join my life with my best friend, knowing that just a few weeks prior she was messing around with another man makes me feel sick, foolish. It's hard to look at wedding pictures and celebrate anniversaries since then. When the truth finally came out, I don't recall any of the people that held the secret from me, apologizing or trying to make amends. The dinners, the vacations, the family parties, all continued as usual. My wife and I did seek professional help to work through these issues. We worked on this for a few months in therapy. We went to a couples retreat to learn stronger communication techniques. We put in the work. It helped, but I just don't think I have processed it completely. The years since finding out have proven to be especially difficult. I have had 2 heart attacks, pretty healthy, but I have spasms that can cause heart attacks. A non-cancerous brain tumor that took the hearing in one ear. Treatment-resistant depression that I have battled for almost 20 years has worsened to the point that I had to leave my career as a teacher after 16 years. It's been tough. My wife travels for work a few times a year for conferences and trainings. A recent trip she went on triggered a lot of these unprocessed feelings around the infidelity. On these trips, she's meeting new people, going out to dinner, and having those deep, academic discussions you have when you are on these types of trips. All of this is healthy, important stuff for adults to have. I try to not bother her with my stuff when she's on these trips. We check in each day, she talks to me, and the kids, normal stuff. One night I was really struggling. I wanted to talk to her. She's my partner, my best friend of almost 25 years. So I called her a few times that evening. No luck. I think to myself, she'll see my calls and get back to me. She doesn't. Try again in the morning. No luck. When I do talk to her later in the day, she says she was out late with her friends and colleagues. She says she didn't check her phone or even see my calls. That may be true. It probably is the truth. But I hate that there's this doubt, that I don't 100% trust my partner. When she returned from her trip, I shared how I was feeling. She listened. She said she understood why I would feel hurt and doubtful. But the hurt, doubt, and shame about doubting my wife is eating me alive. I believe the feeling of being betrayed by my wife and my in-laws has been festering under the surface of everything the past few years. No amount of therapy, individually weekly for years, discussion, and/or personal/couples work seems to be enough. I know I am attaching my shame to a decision she made. I am the one that is making myself feel shameful about this situation, not her. So many relationships have gone through infidelity and come through the other side stronger. I feel like a whiny child. I feel like I should be stronger than this. But I'm not, and it hurts. Feels good to write it all out. Keeping it inside isn't doing me any good. I love my wife, but the shame that doesn't seem to get any better. How have you healed from past infidelity and family secrets? So, it's a book-worthy story, but all I want is for my parents to leave my husband in peace and maybe get ready to be great-grandparents who will play nice with their grandchildren's father. Around 3 years ago, I cheated on my husband. He discovered immediately. I don't think I could have been more stupid. We were very happily married, and I felt completely satisfied and free to talk about anything we would have wanted. Yet all it took was feeling high with a sense of adventure, and I destroyed all of it. We often hear stories about how that often goes after, and I have read a lot about it. But I think our case does not fit the usual descriptions. It was very easy to see how enormous was my husband's pain, but it showed not in outbursts. It showed with what he did, and is simply not him. He took everything, transferred the money, made the house inhabitable, and left to somewhere no one can force him do anything. He let me know I needed somewhere to stay, as the house was not it, and that he was now single. But he made nothing official beside letting me know. Thankfully, my parents don't know about that initial part. However horrified some people might be about these actions, that was not my concern. Rather, I had not seen him for days, and it would become months, and I was worried. What with our marriage? What with having children? And behind everything I realized he had done, I could hear his silent pain. I've thrown up countless times. Soon enough, I had no idea what I could do yet, but I faced the reality that for simply functioning, money was tight when I had nothing. I reached out to him for help for just the basics. His point was that he had no reason to help me with my life if I wouldn't help him with his, but that he would if I would. He could see ways I could help him that would involve me traveling to where he lived. At this point, it was more about seeing him again than getting help. Once there, I helped as he suggested, but I didn't leave in times there was no job for me. I just stayed. He was living as he had decided he would, and he didn't mind if I stayed around. That meant living very isolated from everything and everyone. For a long time I was not very happy there, but I preferred that. Then going back to the misery, it was back home. Over time we were rebuilding parts of our relationship. And by that I mean mutual liking and intimacy. He was nowhere near wanting a reconciliation, but he would be gentle and affectionate to me. He went from not caring why I'd stay there, to not wanting to be vulnerable again, but otherwise wishing me good. That's when we started receiving guests in this isolated place that he'd help come by hiring guides for them and paying for the trip. My parents, other family, some friends. I could never explain to my parents how did we end up living that way in that isolated place, let alone what I did, and that our marriage was supposed to be finished. So in their eyes he had just forced me to move somewhere it was difficult to see people and where there was no chance I'd be happy, and nothing else in the equation. I could leave easily if I didn't mind throwing away the intimacy I had obtained back. I would rather have died there. I had not forgotten the remorse either, which was easier to cope with when he was living as he wanted and holding me when I wanted to be held. I think that makes it 3 years after it all started, when he told me that if I want a reconciliation, he could see it. We could make it happen. We could go back home, seek counseling, and go back to our marriage. He never wanted to make my life miserable, only to make his bearable. We've been back for a couple months, new house, new neighborhood, new job. It feels like the life of Young married again. It's not far from my parents, so we see them often now. But while I'm more than ready to embrace new life and let the past be the past, my parents keep resentment against my husband for how we've lived for around 3 years. They do not know I cheated. They do not know I wanted to do whatever I had to stay by his side and cope with my actions. They do not know what it means for us to be able to reconcile after what we've lived. So they just paint him in a bad light when all I want is to spend my life with him and prepare to have children. Thankfully they can't cast doubt since they don't know how it happened, but we do. But it's starting to be hard to bear. They'd give a hard time to my husband as a reward for reconciliation every time we see them, and now I don't really enjoy seeing them. I'm more afraid they'll soon trigger what must not, and he will leave again. On the other hand, I'm terrified of telling my parents what fully happened. They will think of me as a woman who cheats and that it is what I should do, always, without facing consequences like I did. Not only will they not respect me anymore, but they would then be better equipped to criticize the way my husband coped and I decided to work with. I think I want a break from my parents. A very long break while I get what I want like I was supposed to. When I shattered it all, I don't know what to do with them. Normally I don't keep secrets, but I don't trust them with mine anymore, not with that kind of secret. Edit. I want to insist on something. I am very thankful that so many people are not blaming my husband for his initial reaction and how he chose to try and cope for years. However, my parents would not see that way. What he did was very illegal, and they would also think that he made it too hard for me to reconcile. I do not agree with that viewpoint. I don't care that what he did is not the most socially acceptable behavior. He is always a model citizen, and all it shows is the enormous pain he was in. He had also no duty to reconcile. If I did not want to spend my years like I did, I could have chosen not to. No one told me I had to do that, and certainly not him. But my parents would see it their own way. They would still blame him just the same. But this time, they would do so saying that cheating is what should be done always. I don't want to hear them like that, nor near my new life.